Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that George Lucas, Burgess Meredith, and of course, Charles Strauss don't want you to hear. It's Monkeys and Playbills.
That's Paul DeGers.
That's Jillian Willems. This is Monkeys and Playbills, the show where we discuss Broadway musicals that had runs of 100 performances or fewer on Broadway, not counting previews.
And what the heck happened?
And sometimes we come across shows that don't have enough archived content for us to do a full hour-long episode on them, but they still need to be talked about. Oftentimes, these musicals are legendary flops. They're arcane little bits of history, and they're, quite frankly, kind of bananas.
Kinda?
Kind of bananas.
Is that a King Kong joke?
That's a call forward to one of the shows we're going to talk about this episode.
It. So today we've chosen 3 new, obscure flops.
Absolutely.
We are going to start back in time to 1950.
So just to remind everyone who's joining and anyone who's joining us for the first time, for these mini-sodes, I, Paul DeGers, have not looked up any kind of plot details or historical context, but I've studied the cast list, the song list, the composers, the book writer, collected any information that I can around the content of the show, and formed my opinion solely based on that.
And I have tried to find accurate synopses and information about why that show happened at all, when it happened, and what else was going on at the time.
These are the episodes that are sure to make you a big hit at your next Broadway trivia night. So what's our first show, Jill?
We're going to cover 1950s Happy as Larry.
Yes.
Happy as Larry never had previews at the Coronet Theatre. Probably not unusual for the time, though, I
think
would
so.
say.
I think that's a sign of the times. Yep.
It opened on January 6th, 1950, and closed January 7th, 1950, after 3 performances. They squeezed 3 in there. That's great, a matinee.
That was two dates. So
Yep.
that was 1 2-show day and then a 1 show day.
Yeah. Gorgeous. Put a nice little bow on it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Paul, as you mentioned before, you've sort of actively tried to avoid the synopsis.
Correct.
But based on the limited information you could find, I would love for you to take a crack at what this might be about.
Okay, here's what I know. There is very little detailing Happy as Larry as the piece existed, other than, I'm sure, some of the stuff that you found. Famously, it was never recorded. A recording was never made. So what does this music sound like? I'm not sure. The music's by Misha and Wesley Portnoff. I believe they're a husband and wife team. If I had to guess, maybe they're a brother and sister team.
Oh, sure.
They did very little as far as Broadway music goes.
Right.
After this. The other big thing is that this both starred and was staged by Burgess Meredith. As we all know, both starring and directing the show that you're in is a excellent choice.
It's a very good idea. It's a surefire way to be a hit. We've learned this at our last mini-sode.
That said, if anyone can do it, it is legendary, both Broadway, film, and TV actor Burgess Meredith. Look him up. I guarantee you know him from something. For me, it was the 1960s Batman TV series. I'm a big Batman nerd, and he plays the Penguin. And that's pretty cool. Absolutely legendary. So what I have been able to find is a song list and a character list. So here's what, based on this information, I would like to start this conversation by speculating wildly about what Happy as Larry might be about.
Great.
So I know that we have characters including 8 tailors. All the tailors are named. The first tailor, the second tailor, the third tailor, all the way up to the 8th tailor. I know there's a character named Seamus, a character named the Widow. Because,
again, we don't name women or...
Well, we'll get to that, because there's also a character named Larry, also played by Burgess Meredith.
Right.
And I have to assume it's his wife, who's named Mrs. Larry. There's also Fates.
Yes, that's right.
They've a bunch of characters that have, it seems like Greek names or something like that. And there's also a bunch of, I've got a song list, as I said. So we've got songs with names like Opening, No One Loves Me, Without a Stitch, sung by the Tailors,
Oh,
obviously.
sure. Yeah.
Three old ladies from Hades.
Oh, probably the Fates.
If we had to guess, if we
Yeah.
had to assume. We have the Flatulent Ballad.
No.
Yes, I can't wait. That's in Act 2. Along with Double Murder, Double Death. He's a Bold Rogue, and the Tobacco Blues.
Wow.
So, if I had to guess.
Yeah, here we
if
go.
I had to speculate, it seems like this is possibly a star vehicle for Mr. Meredith.
Yeah, that's a safe bet.
Given that he staged it. He's the only director listed. It says staged, not directed by, but he's the only force in that regard.
Yeah.
And stars as Larry. I would assume that Larry has a pair of pants that don't fit. Because he keeps on going to tailors.
Yeah, like he can't stop.
Yep, he goes to 8 different tailors. To the first tailor, the second tailor. The tailors are sad. The song opens with "No One Loves Me." The second tailor sings this.
Oh.
So the tailors are very sad.
Maybe because, like, in their industry, it's just like one after the other, revolving door of tailors.
Well, I
it's
think
a
so.
very saturated industry at the time.
Well, I think at least in this town, it's an oversaturated market. There's 8 of them.
Yeah,
That's
right.
too many.
Nobody loves my work.
No one loves my work. So Burgess Meredith, Larry rather, keeps on going around to the various tailors trying to get his pants hemmed. And none of them can do it because they're all sad. There's not enough work. The industry is oversaturated.
Right. So they
Until-
become complacent.
They
is
become
what you're
complacent. If I had to guess, after that, Larry he comes home. He comes back to his house and he says to his wife, Mrs. Larry,
Yeah.
Mrs. Larry, I can't get these pants. I'm sorry, my pants are they're always going to be too long. They're never going to be hemmed. And Mrs. Larry says, no, I can help. I've got my friend. She's a widow. Her husband passed away, but she's better than any other tailor. She can help you out.
Ooh, cool.
Larry says, great. I love it. There is a song called A Cup of Tea that Larry, Mrs. Larry, the widow, and Seamus and the doctor, who are 2 other characters who I don't have time to get into their plot now. But what is important is that the widow calls forward these fates. There's a supernatural element. This is the end of Act 1. Is she calls forward the 3 old ladies from Hades, and the Act 1 ends. I can see right here with Dance of the Fates, which is the 7th tailor. The widow is the 7th tailor.
Oh.
They're the same character, even though they have 2 different names, and were played by 2 different actors. It's wild.
Wow.
And Act 1 ends with the Dance of the Fates. Act 2, things are great.
Yeah.
Larry's pants are hemmed.
Yeah.
Mrs. Larry is happy
New lease on
because
life.
the bottom of his pants aren't getting dirty. Life is good. But wait.
Oh, no.
Start of Act 2, all the tailors sing a song called The Dirty Dog.
Oh, they're mad. Are they mad at him?
They're upset.
Yeah.
They're grumpy that he subverted the tailor industry in this town. There's this subplot that once again, I don't want to get into it because it's a little obscure, but it's Seamus sings the Flatulent Ballad.
Oh,
he's got IBS and it's a whole thing.
And maybe there's like a love thing attached to that.
Oh, I'm sure there is. So, Act 2, the coalition of tailors goes after Mrs. Larry because she's the one who took him to the widow. So we have the loyalist wife and a song called Oh, Mrs. Larry that the tailors and Mrs. Larry sing together, where the tailors sing, Oh, Mrs. Larry, we're gonna get ya.
Oh, so they have torches.
Yes, they're not happy.
It's
They're,
very much like Kill the Beast, but...
This is actually, this is where Alan Menken got the idea. Was from Happy as Larry.
Right, yeah.
So this continues for a while. The fates are out of this at this point. There's no more fates. The fates were just in Act 1. Because Act 2 is a thrilling political drama, essentially.
Ooh.
They're playing 4D chess. The tailors and Mrs. Larry and Larry all trying to trap each other in a, so it's more of a legal battle than anything.
So it's now a courtroom drama.
Well, exactly. So we have double murder, double death.
Oh, right.
Where the 5th tailor tries to frame Mrs. Larry. We have He's a Bold Rogue, where Mrs. Larry explains Larry's the impetus.
Right.
Larry's so bold, and his pants just kept on getting dirty at the bottom because he's a dirty dog.
Yeah.
So we just had to hem them up. And then finally, Larry sings the heartfelt ballad, I Remember Her, where he sings about the Mrs. Larry that he once knew before all this business started. Mrs. Larry used to be a happy, wonderful, supportive partner, but this legal battle and supernatural situation has taken a toll on her. Mrs. Larry realizes that this has taken a toll, comes back to Larry. They reunite, And Larry and the Tailors sing a finale where they promise to try to work together in the future. It doesn't really wrap up super well. I think this might be part of the reason it didn't run for very long. It's not a super satisfying ending. It never addresses the fact that there's 8 tailors and only 3 other people living in the town, and that's too many tailors. Anyways, there's a finale where they celebrate the fact that now everyone is as happy as Larry.
So it's sort of a commentary on a tailors union.
Well, it's a commentary on unions everywhere.
Yeah, unions
really,
everywhere.
It's is it pro-union? Is it anti-union?
Well, that's for you to decide.
That's exactly. It tries to stay ambiguous, I believe.
Wow, Paul, that was incredible.
It's an incredible show. What's it actually about?
Well,
I'm so curious.
So I kind of like your version because it had like tastes of the Into the Woods structure where it's like you think Act 1 is like has a decent button and then it just completely shifts for Act 2. So
in Happy as Larry Jr. they usually only perform Act 1.
They only do Act 1. So I managed to find this synopsis on playbill.com.
I'm so curious.
An Irish tailor, it's important that he's Irish.
Totally.
Discusses marriage with his friends and tells the story of his grandfather who was poisoned by a doctor in love with his wife. But through various fantastical coincidences, he comes back to life a widower and marries a seemingly nicer but marriage-desperate widow.
There's the widow. So it may be important that he's Irish because he's Seamus.
Right. I think the thing that confuses me is Larry the grandfather?
Well, I thought Seamus would be. Maybe Seamus is his friend or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh.
So this synopsis actually confuses me.
Who are the Fates?
Right.
Why are there so many tailors? There's 8 of them. Why does Seamus fart so much? They had to have a whole song about it.
Yeah, what is that about?
What's going on?
Yeah, so that's what I found. And
that answers very few questions.
It has a bit of like a Walter Mitty feel to me.
Oh,
where it's like...
Yeah.
The fantastical element of this story.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the impression that it's like, here, sit down, gather around the fire, and let me tell you about this thing, which we love so much.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that in Big Fish as well.
Yeah, and Leap of Faith.
Right. Yeah, totally.
But that was like to an extreme.
Yeah.
This one, I think, maybe makes more sense.
Big Fish does it pretty well. Leap of Faith, as we discussed, does it not quite as effectively.
Right. Yeah. And I think... I mean, I don't know. We can only speculate as to how well this did, but I would imagine it just didn't work too well.
I have to assume, just based on that, it sounds very bizarre. Wow. And it ran for three performances.
Yeah. A part of me wonders if it had something to do with the cast, because like at the time, Burgess Meredith had already done a decent amount of stuff. Like I think he was about at least 15 years into his Broadway career.
That's my understanding as well. There's he's well into a ton of stuff. He's a legend already. Yeah.
But then like the other actors I found, like one of them was an opera singer.
Sure.
Marguerite Piazza.
Yeah.
Who I was like, oh, maybe that was confusing to people, having an opera singer do what would have been a contemporary musical in 1950. So I don't know.
I think it's a bizarre time as well where Broadway's just emerging from the golden age.
That is true. Yeah.
We've had Rodgers and Hammerstein taking the world by storm already.
That's right. A couple times. 49, like Brigadoon happened, right? Like just before this. And same with South Pacific.
This is at this bizarre time in Broadway where it's right at the apex of the golden age of musical theater.
Yeah.
And I think for that reason, there's some composers like Rodgers and Hammerstein who are really nailing it, and other composers who are still, because this is still a relatively nascent art form.
Yes.
Who are still really trying to figure out, how does this work? What's going on here? How do we use this art form of musical narrative style storytelling? What makes it different from opera? What makes it the same in opera?
That's a great point.
How do you do something like magical realism comedy?
Right.
I would potentially chalk it up to a noble swing, but a swing and a miss.
That's a good idea. That's a really good observation, because if we look back on what was successful at the time, it was these big romances. Yeah. You know?
But then even Brigadoon has this weird supernatural element.
Yeah.
Like it's this town that appears every friggin' whatever, how many years?
And to me, that's what is engaging about it before you see it. but it's not the coolest part about it when you're watching it.
Right.
So maybe Happy as Larry, where you're like, ooh, there is a supernatural element, cool. Yeah. And if that's the coolest thing about it and it's not executed well, maybe that's also a problem.
Absolutely. And once again, I think it's worth mentioning, it's not a good idea to direct something and be in it at the same time. To direct something and star in it.
I mean, we haven't seen that work yet.
Literally on the most basic level. Isn't it just better to be able to sit in the audience and see what the audience is seeing rather than being on stage?
Yes.
That seems fundamental. Otherwise, who's going to say, no, that looks bad?
Yeah, right. You cannot know.
Exactly.
Okay, Tonys. We got to talk about the Tonys.
So what was going on this year?
Oh my gosh, Paul. So you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about these, the golden age of musical theater.
Yes.
So the 4th annual Tony Awards.
Oh, geez, I'm looking at this right now.
Was on April 9th, 1950, hosted by Humphrey Bogart.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible?
That's so cool.
Yeah. So the big winners were South Pacific and South Pacific.
That's so funny. I see there's a special presentation by Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh, how nice.
Isn't it? South Pacific. Comeback Little Sheba's in play.
Yeah, so just some unknowns.
Yeah. Wow.
And there were very few categories, and it seemed like they were split into production, performance, and craft.
This is so cool. I remember a couple months ago we did a Broadway trivia night with
we did.
Dear friend of the podcast, Ryan Siegel. It was very fun. And the whole thing was centered around the Tony Awards.
And it was so hard.
And it was very challenging. And talking about the first Tony Awards was especially fascinating, and how different they were from what the Tonys have become.
Yes.
I think that's so cool.
Like, I get the impression it was like a luncheon.
Yeah.
In its early days.
As opposed to like
a big thing, like the Academy Awards. Like, it's on that level now.
It absolutely is.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for one of those Tonys.
That is Happy as Larry. 4 performances. Not only did it not crack 100, it didn't crack 10.
Wow.
So, Happy as Larry, do we want to revive or do we want to let it die?
My gut instinct is to just let it be, to die. Because I think other musicals came along that used these conventions better. So let's stick with those ones and let's let Happy as Larry just be happy in the past.
I disagree. This sounds so bananas. And there's
Wait, your version or the real version?
Either. Either can be equally derived from the information we have. I just want to know. Nope. I take it back. Yes, we should just let it lie. Mm-hmm. Revive or let it live. Because there's no way that the real version could measure up to what I've already built it up to in my head.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let Happy as Larry be this incredible, bananas, off-the-wall, fascinating piece of Broadway history.
Like a relic.
Rather than getting to watch it and have it potentially just be, that's kind of medium.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. So that's Happy as Larry. You know what else didn't crack 10 performances on Broadway?
What?
A Broadway musical.
Which one?
No, it's A Broadway Musical.
Okay, but which one?
That's what it's called. Title of the show is Charles Strauss's A Broadway Musical.
Da 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 da.
Who's on first?
Third base.
Okay.
Which is, by the way, very challenging to research. A show called A Broadway Musical.
Here we go.
Yes. All right.
Previews began at the Lunt-Fontanne Theatre on December 8th, 1978. It opened on December 21st, 1978, and closed on December 21st, 1978, after 14 previews and 1 performance.
1 performance.
1. I think that's our lowest.
Yeah.
How do you get any lower than that?
But it ran off Broadway for a little bit first.
Oh, it did?
From what I understand.
Oh.
It had a tidy little 26 performance run off Broadway.
Yeah.
So it lived there a little bit. It's also, the music is by dear friend of the podcast, Charles Strauss.
Our most talked about composer.
Quite frankly, even after this, we're going to talk about a fair bit.
Yeah. So where do we begin?
So there is a recording for this. I was not able to find it, but apparently a live recording of the show from the theater was made at some point.
Wonderful.
I'd be really excited to be able to find it sometime.
Yeah.
I was able to find some B-roll archival video. It was like a collection of reviews I ended up finding. So I saw characters, lots of gold lame, kind of really disco, or like that classic chorus line style look. You know what I mean?
Glitz. The glitz.
Yeah, a super glitzy. I have to assume, once again, found a song list, a character list.
Yep.
That this is a kind of a meta show.
Oh.
This is a musical about musicals, or about making a Broadway musical.
Okay.
So we got characters like the rehearsal pianist, the theater party associate.
Yes.
This is the biggest cast of the 3 that we're covering.
That's right.
This cast is quite big. With that said, let me tell you what a Broadway musical is about based on this extensive research that I was able to do. The main character is Richie Taylor, who is played by Larry Marshall. Actually quite an accomplished Broadway performer.
Yeah.
So there's that. So, Richie Taylor stars in a Broadway musical where in the opening number, Broadway, Broadway.
Is it actually
That's what it's called. Broadway, Broadway. He sings about how much he loves Broadway. It's actually him as a little kid. There's a little kid first.
Nice.
Sings about how one day I'm going to make it on Broadway, Broadway. Then flash forward 25 years where he's older. He's a Broadway star. He's a Broadway star who directs and stars in his own Broadway musicals.
He's a Burgess Meredith type.
He's a Burgess Meredith type, exactly. And he sings, him and the ensemble. This is kind of, it segues into the second, A Broadway Musical, which is the second song in the show.
Right.
Where he sings about how this is it. He's been toiling away in regional theaters and off-Broadway productions. And here he is. It's time to make a Broadway musical, his dream. So, he falls in love with a woman.
Of course.
Of course, as one does. He's been in love with this woman for a little while, actually.
Okay.
So this is established. This is the first time we meet her, but they've been in a relationship for a while.
Okay.
And
great.
she says, "You're spending too much time on this Broadway musical."
Oh, yeah.
He says, "No matter how much I work on this Broadway musical, I hurry home to you." This
that sounds like it would be a beautiful song.
It's a beautiful ballad. Oh, I love
Yeah.
it. It's Charles Strouse at his best. It recalls Annie at its finest.
I wonder what that would sound like.
No matter what happens, I hurry home to you.
Yeah. A little jazzy, not too jazzy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A soaring melody. You're going to leave it humming. You're going to leave it humming. This is the melody you're going to leave the theater humming.
Yeah, and he goes up to like something he sings falsetto-y at the end.
No matter what happens, no matter what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
No matter what happens, I hurry home to you. Exactly. Oh, it's beautiful.
Wow,
and it's a good thing
gorgeous.
it's beautiful because then things go wrong. He gets accused of plagiarism. Him
my
and
gosh.
his composing team get accused of plagiarism, and in come the lawyers. And they sing the song. There's a song called Lawyers. So they sing. They have briefcases. They have fedoras.
Yes.
There's all sorts of choreography.
With those items.
It's Fosse-esque, really,
Yeah.
because this is the
absolutely.
late 1970s. So there's lots of the lawyers stand still, but one hand moves.
Yeah, isolations everywhere.
Super tons of isolation.
Yeah.
Fosse was actually grumpy about this.
He
about
was
this
like,
show.
hey,
'cause he was
that's
not
my
involved.
intellectual
that's
property.
Exactly. But Larry says, "No, let me sing my song."
Oh, is that
That's the next song. That's the next song. Yeah.
Are
No.
they in the courtroom for this as well?
It's a political drama. Is the thing. It's a courtroom drama. And then we get to the end of Act 1, where we have a reprise of Let Me Sing My Song, followed by a reprise of a Broadway musical. Whereas the first Broadway musical was very fast, was, I want to be in a Broadway musical, I
Right.
want to see the lights on the stage. This is, I want to be in a Broadway musical.
Right.
Ding, ding, ding,
and
ding,
he's
ding,
questioning
ding.
it this
He's
time
questioning,
because he's in
do I
jail
want to be,
for plagiarism.
Is it worth all this hassle? My name's getting wrapped through the mud. My partner, who I hurry home to, is very grumpy.
Yeah.
Is very sad.
I don't hurry fast enough.
I can't hurry fast enough.
Yeah.
End of Act 1. Entr'acte. Then we get to the top of Act 2, the 1934 Hot Chocolate Jazz Babies Review.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
which is
yeah.
the well, it's another show that his composing team pitches to him.
They're like, how about instead
They're
of
like,
that?
yeah, we got to be done with this. Why don't instead we do the 1934 Hot Chocolate Jazz Babies Review? This is a new idea. He says, no, a Broadway musical is my dream, and this is what we're going to do.
Yes.
And so instead, his composing team says, fair enough, it's time for a cheer-up song. And they sing a cheer-up song. It's okay. It's not Charles Strauss's best, if I'm
But
just
it's like
being
a
honest.
tap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we all need a tap in Act 2.
Yeah. No, it's not a tap. That's more of a 3-part duet because the tap comes next for the song You Gotta Have Dancing.
Okay, see, it segues directly.
It's another one of those segues. Yeah.
I got it.
You Gotta Have Dancing. And so they go and they march back into the courtroom determined. They are determined to produce this show. And there's one more reprise of Let Me Sing My Song.
Oh, great.
This time it is him and his whole team. And they make a case that his good name is just being dragged is being dragged through the mud, and they refuse to have it happen anymore.
Right. And so this is like it's hard to speak my heart.
It's exactly that.
Yeah.
Same emotional resonance, same stakes.
Yeah. More falsetto.
More falsetto, absolutely. The judge says, fair enough, case dismissed. Gavel.
Yes.
Boom. Cut to 6 months later, smashing New York Times. It's the name of the song. It's a review song.
Oh my gosh.
There was gobos. There was gobos at the time that made it look like a newspaper.
Yes.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah.
That's the spinning newspaper.
That's the spinning
for everyone
newspaper
who can't
going
see.
reviews.
Yeah.
A Broadway musical is a huge success. But wait, we're almost at the end of the show. This is the 11 o'clock number. His wife says, I can't do this anymore. This show has taken too much. I can't do this. And he sings, Don't Tell Me. It's beautiful. He just can't bear to hear it.
It seems to me that the wife in this show only is there to stomp on his dreams.
Well, see,
and she doesn't get her own songs.
People thought that at the time. She's actually a powerful character. She has her own dreams. Based on my listening to it anyway, I'm not super familiar with this show, but I think she's a powerful character and a sympathetic character. She's not so much, you can't do a Broadway musical. You need to have a good work-life balance.
Oh,
I think
sure.
If anything, I admire her as a character.
That's a great point. Because
Absolutely.
That is important.
It's very important. And it's something that a Broadway musical here explores.
Yep.
Because eventually we get to the last song of the show, which is Together, where our two main characters find themselves in a passionate embrace, knowing that no matter what happens to Broadway, in the courtroom, wherever it may occur, together, they will succeed.
And everyone comes back.
Everyone comes back together, you're always together.
Precisely. Oh, wow, Paul.
It's great. I'm surprised it only ran
one performance.
Because, wow.
Honestly, though, that doesn't sound like the worst thing ever. Your version.
Fair enough. What's it actually about?
Okay, so Playbill.com says, a Broadway musical is about the trials and tribulations of putting on a Broadway musical. Like, that's it. But then I did a little digging, and I found out that it was, like, based on Strauss and Adams, right? Because I think it's the same
that's correct.
pair. So Strauss and Adams' experience writing their other flop, Golden Boy.
Yes.
And about their working with Sammy Davis Jr.
Yes.
So it's like a semi-autobiographical musical about that
really
experience.
Fascinating.
So fascinating. And they wanted to make it like The Wiz.
Sure.
Because The Wiz was like a huge hit at the time. And so they were aiming to replicate the amazing things about The Wiz.
Absolutely, especially amplifying African-American stars on the stage. That's something that's just starting to happen in Broadway at that time. Yeah.
But they don't have any Black artists on the production team.
Oh, that's no good.
Okay, but they do at first. So they have an out-of-town tryout.
Yeah.
And George Faison,
yeah,
amazing dancer, choreographer, director, creator, is the director.
Terrific.
And then he gets fired after this out-of-town trial. And they call in Gower Champion to take over this production, but he says that it's, quote, like too far gone or something at that point. And so he refuses to be called the director and and chooses to just be called production supervisor.
Wow.
Yeah, which I thought was just like mean.
Sure. So something is potentially fundamentally wrong with the bones of this production at this point.
Absolutely. They lost $1 million.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, in 1978
would
be like
$4 million.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Lost a bunch of money.
And it's kind of, like we speculated, it is this super meta thing of
That's right.
a team making a musical that strongly resembles Golden Boy.
And that one didn't work.
No.
So why would you think that, let's do a musical about that musical that didn't work?
It's just a few years after Chorus Line, right?
Yeah.
So they've had this meta show.
Right.
It's become the biggest hit at the time, right?
Yes.
A show that's based on kind of this inside baseball take
Exactly.
on the creation of a Broadway musical. Like, I can see where they're going a little bit more now. I don't think it's prudent.
Right.
Whereas what makes A Chorus Line so charming is it's derived from these really candid interviews with these workers.
And each person in A Chorus Line gets a moment to have their story heard.
Yeah.
And I wonder if in this, that just like wasn't a thing. Like the perspective sense of it.
What makes Chorus Line so charming, I love Chorus Line's probably my favorite musical of all time.
One of mine too.
Is it's not about the show at all. The show's not even named. Who cares about the show? It's about each character and their individual journey and finding out more about these characters. Mm-hmm. And then specifically about Cassie and Zach and finding out about them and their relationship. But the show is secondary. And so just speculating, knowing this show and knowing Charles Strouse as a writer, is it possible that they maybe picked up on the wrong things that made Chorus Line so charming?
Yeah.
Probably the wrong things that made The Wiz so charming as well.
Right.
And tried to capitalize on the success of those two brilliant shows not super well.
I think that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
What was going on at the Tonys this year?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So this was the 33rd Tony Awards.
And the Tonys are starting to look like the Tonys we know and love now.
I think so.
Yeah,
because it was at the Schubert Theater on June 3rd, 1979, hosted by Jane Alexander, Henry Fonda, and Liv Ullmann.
And it says musicals represented, so I think musicals are performing at this point.
Yes. Okay, this is good news.
Oh, holy shit, what a year.
Okay.
I just looked at the list. So this is the year that Sweeney Todd took it.
Yeah!
Against Ballroom, Best Little Whorehouse, and They're Playing Our Song.
Yes.
So this is if in the 1950s, Broadway was just starting to figure out its identity within the Golden Age. Mm-hmm. Broadway has solidly found its identity at this point. Holy crap.
Yes.
Wow.
And more than that, has flipped the structure completely on its head.
Yep,
because,
absolutely.
Okay, we know what the quote-unquote classic Broadway musical is now.
Yep.
Let's see what we can do with it. How do we stretch it?
This is so cool.
Right?
What a cool year.
So Sweeney was obviously the big winner.
Yeah, taking it left and well-deserved. Hal Prince takes Best Direction.
Yes, as he should.
As he should.
And Angela Lansbury.
Of course.
I mean, sweeping. Although Best Little Whorehouse got both of the featured actor and actress awards. So that's saying something.
What a fascinating Tony year.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's when things start to, get shaken up a little bit.
I agree.
Yeah.
All of this to say, it's no surprise that a weird concept show like this that's clearly not functioning properly wouldn't even be able to make a dent in the Tony Awards.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Also, terrible name. A Broadway musical. Terrible in this day and age when I was trying to Google it online. I'm sure terrible at the time as well.
Yeah.
How on earth is your show that's literally just called A Broadway Musical supposed to compete with shows called The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas and Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street?
I'm just picturing someone going up to like the booth and saying,
Whatever
hello, I would like to
in
see a Broadway musical. And then they'd say, here's the ticket to Sweeney Todd.
Exactly.
And,
fair enough.
Like,
this is the one you want to see.
I will do my Abbott and Costello bit until the cows come
exactly.
out. You can pry this out of my cold dead hand.
It has legs. Yeah.
Yeah, but actually, I'd like 2 tickets to a Broadway musical, please.
Which one?
Fair enough. You want this one. It's Sweeney
Which
Todd.
one? Yeah. Here's the ticket to Ballroom. Like, it's just, I don't know. I could see that being confusing. It's also charming, but it's like that fringe charming, It's like, I'd go see a Broadway musical at the Fringe Festival.
I'm not sure if I'd go see it on Broadway. So, a Broadway musical, would you revive or let it die?
Die.
Absolutely. There's no question in my mind. I'm not interested in seeing this ever. It doesn't, as we discussed, there's too many shows that do the making of a Broadway show well and do it really interesting. This can't be one of them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, what's our last one?
our last one I'm very excited for is Censored Scenes from King Kong. What an incredible name. That is an incredible name for a show.
Oh my gosh. Previews began at the Princess Theater on February 26th, 1980. It opened on March 6th, 1980, and closed on March 9th, 1980, after 11 previews and 5 performances.
That's right, everyone. None of the 3 shows that we are talking about today broke 10 performances on Broadway.
Not even 5. I think 5 is our highest. 5, 3, and 1.
I feel a lot of sympathy for these shows as well. You know how the amount of energy and effort that goes into putting up a show, even a show that maybe hasn't turned out exactly as you envisioned it, it would be a tough blow on anyone to have a show that you've been given that much love to actually getting it to the biggest stage in North America.
Absolutely.
And not having it even be seen enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of think especially about this one, but let's give it a go.
This is another one that I found challenging to research. Mostly because there is another King Kong Broadway musical.
Yes, that's right.
Has a very, very interesting history.
And that was more recent, like 2018,
Much
right?
more recent.
Yeah.
A revised, it was in the works for a long time. And there's the most recent revised version, the one that you've probably seen video of the crazy cool puppet.
Yes.
It looks amazing. It came in after Spider-Man to that theater, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So here's what I know about Censored Scenes from King Kong. And then based on what I know, here's what I will speculate on the plot.
I'm so excited.
So I know that there are 8 people in the show. I know that one of those people is Carrie Fisher.
That Carrie Fisher?
At the height of her popularity.
Yes.
She's just been in Star Wars at this point. Star Wars was, I'm not sure if you knew this is a little bit of arcane cinema history. Star Wars was a big success.
It was very, yeah.
So, Star Wars was a successful movie.
Yeah.
And Carrie Fisher became a more popular star because she was in it.
In certain clothing that became iconic, certain outfits.
Well, and a certain hairstyle at this point.
Oh,
as
that
well.
hair. I love her so much.
Right? And I know that there are characters, some characters have names, but there's also a character that is just the voice of the author, and a different character that is the voice of the producer. So I have to assume there's some meta business that's going on in here as well.
Yeah.
Finally, I was able to find only a few musical numbers.
Okay.
The names of a few musical numbers. There's definitely no, as far as I know, no cast recording made.
They also called it a play with music. So if you're only seeing a few songs, it's actually probably all the music that was in it.
Oh, so fair enough. Okay, because we have songs called Hacha, Banana Oil, He Ain't Scared of Nothing. And then in Act 2, we've got Number 1, Soft Shoe Freak, and The Other Side of the Wall.
Yeah, so that's probably honestly everything that was in there.
Oh, and we have a poster. We have a really cool looking poster that also doesn't seem like a Broadway poster at all. There's a baby grand piano.
Okay.
And it's open. The body of it is open. And there's a man, a young man, but not too young, like in his 20s or 30s, standing by the piano. And there's two girls who seem like they're maybe twins or something sitting inside the piano. Torsos are poking up, but their butts are like inside the piano.
Oh, sure.
And they all have like those censored bars over their eyes.
Oh.
Like, from like the Parasite poster from a couple years ago.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
man, I love that movie.
And Censored Scenes from King Kong.
So does it look cinematic, this poster?
That's made to look like a photograph that they
got
put
it.
and made a poster out of.
Got it.
Yeah. It looks like a poster. If I saw this at the Fringe Festival, I'd be like, that's a great poster. For a Broadway musical, I'd be like, really? That's playing on Broadway. So, based on this information, I would like to speculate wildly.
Here we go.
I forgot to mention, the last thing I know, I know from existing that the 1930s King Kong had a bunch of scenes cut from it famously.
Correct. Yeah.
So I know that just as a bit of history.
Yeah.
So that's what's in play as well. When they say censored scenes from King Kong,
yes,
they're maybe actually talking about some of these scenes that were not able to be included in the original, very famous 1930s King Kong movie.
Very good.
So, if I had to speculate wildly, this show is about a princess from a planet called Alderaan who's been captured. No, I'm just kidding.
That joke's for nerds. I like it.
That joke's for nerds.
Paul, you're looking for comedy in Alderaan Place.
Oh.
Da-da-da-da-da.
This show is about the Fantaccini sisters. One of those is Carrie Fisher. One of those is Alma Cuervo, Deborah and Iris Fantaccini. And the Fantaccini sisters are cinephiles.
Oh,
They
great.
love movies.
Yeah.
They love old movies. They love movie trivia. And the holy grail for them are these scenes from King Kong that were cut from the original movie. This is a road story. They go on a road trip.
Ooh.
They go on a road trip because they've heard that it's a kind of like a Pee-wee's Big Adventure thing in the basement of a in the basement of the Library of Congress.
Oh, good.
There's-
Good. We're bringing that back.
These
love
censored
it.
scenes from King Kong are there.
Yes.
And they need to see them.
Yeah.
So they embark on a road trip, but they're young. They're not very old. They're
How old would you say?
I'd say 17.
Great.
So they it's going to be a bit of a they can't just rent a car and travel cross country.
Right.
Because the Library of Congress is in Washington?
Yeah.
They're in California.
Right.
Yeah.
California to Washington. That's a decent hike.
Yes. So they embark on a it's a like I said, it's a road movie. It's kind of Thelma and Louise-y, kind of Pee-wee's Big
sure.
Adventure-y.
I like that
Driving
idea.
on, that's why the opening number is Ha-Cha, because they're hitting the road. Ha-Cha, hitting
Ooh,
the road.
in a
In
convertible.
an old car.
Yeah.
So throughout that, it's really kind of, it's a fun laugh a minute. There's not really a plot as much as it's a series of adventures that
I
they
like
find
that.
on this road trip, where at one point they meet a man named Walter Wilma,
Oh.
and he tries to sell them. He says, I'm not a snake oil salesman. I don't sell snake oil. I sell this special banana oil.
Oh.
This banana oil will keep
It's
you
way
awake
better.
so you can drive all night and get to the Library of Congress.
Cool.
And so that's where the song Banana Oil comes in.
Cool. Okay.
They meet other people. They meet like an alligator salesman. And
So wait. So banana oil has nothing to do with trying to get like King Kong to slip.
that would have been better. No.
It's entirely
That-
to get them to be able to drive.
That would have been better, but unfortunately, no. That's not what it is.
That's not what the musical in your head is. So.
Walter Wilma, they get along with him so well, though, that he comes along.
Oh, I
he
love
joins,
that.
He
Just
joins the
picking
road trip.
people up on the way.
Yep.
I
Exactly.
love
So now
that.
Walter Wilma's in the car. They meet, like I said, a alligator salesperson. They stay in a motel, and it's a haunted motel. And
Cool.
at a haunted motel, they meet a man named Stephen.
Ooh.
And Stephen is, they're talking about, this hotel's haunted. And Stephen sings a song called He Ain't Scared of Nothing.
Oh.
where
And
he
he's
talk-
like, let me prove it. I'll come with you. And then they
Yep.
get in the car. It's like just more people.
Absolutely. So now we've got a whole caravan traveling to the Library of Congress to find the censored scenes from
Yeah.
King Kong. We get to Act 2, sing a song called Number One. How the Fantaccini sisters want to be the first number ones to be the first non-Library of Congress employees to see the censored scenes from King Kong.
Oh, I love that.
Traveling across the country, the car breaks down.
Oh, no.
What are they going to do? They have to get to the Library of Congress before spring break is over.
Yeah.
And they have to go back to school.
They got to get...
They try to hitch a ride to get someone to fix their car.
Right.
And this man named Sauvage Cigar stops and says, I'm a soft shoe freak. I would love to give you a ride, but I need to see a dance.
Yeah.
And they're like, what kind of dance? You perv? We don't do that. And he's like, not that kind of
No,
dance. Don't worry.
a real soft
I just want to
shoe.
see a soft shoe. I'm a Broadway nerd.
Remember Act 2 tap number.
Act 2 tap number. And this is where the meta-ness kind of comes in. We've got 3
Right.
kind of meta shows that we've been dealing with.
I love that.
So they do a soft shoe. Sauvage Cigar loves it, gives them a ride into town. They get their transmission replaced. They're back on the road.
No, the whole time it was like, all you had to do is pour the banana oil in
All
the
you
car.
had to do was, well, this transmission's shot. You'd be screwed unless you had some banana oil.
And then it's like,
Walter
what?
Wilma's like, oh wait. Finally,
Yeah.
they get there, and they sneak into the Library of Congress.
Yeah.
They get down to the basement. They get to the C section for censored scenes from King Kong.
Yeah.
It's not there because that's not how you.
The C for censored.
That's
yeah.
not how you.
Got
That's
it.
not how you file. So they go to the K's and there they find it.
And they're like, oh, right.
Right. And they watch them, and they're really boring. Nothing especially controversial or titillating. It's just scenes that didn't look very good, so they didn't put them in the
Yeah.
movie.
It's like King Kong Falls.
Exactly. But not off
Yeah.
not off the building.
Right.
Trips.
But like trips.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Or
Yeah.
on a banana oil.
And so the sisters are so distraught. They spent their whole spring break doing this. So Walter Wilma, their dear friend Walter, who they've had some disagreements with him over the course of this adventure, but really they've become very close with him. He's almost a cool uncle. Sings a song called The Other Side of the Wall about how the grass is always greener on the other side of the wall. So sometimes it is important to just let things that we are dreaming of be dreams. Sometimes what they are in our heads, like Happy as Larry, what they are in our heads is better than what they are in real life. And sometimes we should just let things exist in our hearts and in our heads and in our souls and in our friendships and in our love
And then the
and in
curtain
sisterhood and in America.
A new verse for each concept.
The real censored scenes from King Kong was the friends we made.
And that's Censored Scenes from King Kong. It's beautiful.
Wow.
It's really incredible.
Wow. Oh, wow.
What on earth could Censored Scenes from King Kong actually be about, Jill?
Okay, I have two sources for this
Great.
synopsis. So the first one is, of course, Playbill.com, who seems to be the only place that has some of these older, more obscure
I
shows.
appreciate their work on kind of archiving these things.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So they write, this comedy imagines that scenes cut from the film King Kong actually contain information for secret agents. So that apparently is like a rumor rather, that circulated because it was on the cover of a magazine, I guess.
Okay.
In the 70s. It was like a lore, I guess, associated with it.
Yeah.
So then on this Tumblr page, had to
Great.
do a little bit of a deep dive here. Michael T. Mooney's Tumblr page, he writes, the plot does indeed concern a modern-day investigative journalist coming from Tokyo to London to track down censored scenes from 1933's King Kong.
That's probably Walter Wilma.
Sure, yeah, there we go. Believing the clips contain secret messages for enemy agents.
What?
It was also a comedy. In fact, the show was subtitled A Comic Extravaganza, which is generally warning enough that it may not be.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I agree.
Yeah, so my understanding, what I found was because when I searched censored scenes from King Kong, of course, the lore side of things came up, the speculation side, but then also this article about the BBC came up, which I thought, oh, interesting. I wonder what that's about. So censored scenes from King Kong was actually a television play.
Really?
Yes, written by the same person who adapted the book for Broadway, Howard Schuman. So he wrote this television play that apparently was only aired one time.
Okay.
And it was originally made for the BBC's program called 11th Hour.
Sure, okay.
And it's like an anthology of television plays. And they also, in the same year, produced a Carol Churchill. So it's sort of like, they just produce shows.
Very cool.
Which I think, in theory, is a really great idea.
I agree.
But people sort of saw this King Kong television play comedy thing and they were like, whoa, this is bad. Someone said it was as bad as the cult classic Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Sure, fair enough.
And I was like, oh, okay, this person maybe just doesn't get it. And that's okay.
Right, because at the time that was kind of the prevailing feeling about Rocky Horror.
That's right.
You don't get it unless you really get it.
Yes. Yeah. And so I imagine that this is much the same.
Sure.
And how cool is that? To think that there's like a possible cult classic in here somewhere, you know? So it was a mixture of comedy and satire and songs and melodrama, and it was shot and acted in a highly stylized way.
This is the BBC version.
These are all comments relating to the BBC version, which I imagine hold true for the Broadway, just based on the fact that it's the same book writers. So I would guess that they tried to keep the essence of that alive.
I'm inclined to agree, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Secret. Where do the sisters come in? That's so.
I don't know.
Oh, I would really be interested in seeing this BBC broadcast. If anyone can find it, we'll do like a live watch.
Oh yeah.
And everyone can watch with us. It'll be great.
Oh, that would be really fun. So that's how it existed in its inception and its first life, and then it came to Broadway
with Carrie Fisher.
As
one of these sisters. So I have to, and the sisters are in a whole bunch of the numbers. I have to assume the sisters are a bigger part.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they factor into this story.
Wow.
But the cast really was stacked for this time.
Yes.
So we had Stephen Collins, whom you may know from Seventh Heaven as the dad. We have, of course, Carrie Fisher. Alma Cuervo, who has done so much Broadway. Like, so much. I can't even explain. Cabaret, Titanic, Women on the Verge. Like,
On Your Feet just recently,
yeah,
eh?
like so much Broadway. And then we have Chris Sarandon, Prince Humperdinck.
Right.
Like,
Chris Sarandon.
I can't even explain to you. This cast is, and they even say that it was unusually stacked. Like, this was not usual for the time to have this many, top billed names.
In this bizarre thing that has been on the BBC once, and no one liked it. No one got it.
Right.
Fascinating. and it didn't help. There was no...
Not at all.
A cool title and star power couldn't carry it.
So, one more little thing.
Yes.
Besides the reviews, which I tried to find like an actual review and I couldn't, but on Michael T. Mooney's Tumblr account, he wrote some quotes from reviewers. So thank you, Michael T. Mooney.
Yep.
Quote, "A lousy evening. The worst."
The worst.
Quote, "If this is what wowed them in London, then London should be arrested on drug charges." And then, as I'm scrolling through Broadway World, and one person, they asked if anyone had seen it.
Sure.
Here it says, "I did see Censored Scenes from King Kong. I remember enjoying it immensely. It was bizarre but fascinating, and Carrie Fisher was surprisingly good." So I think there's a cult classic in there.
Yeah. And it just, something didn't click and it didn't become what Rocky Horror became or something.
Right.
So what was going on at the Tonys this year? That might provide some context for what happened here.
So this is the 34th Tony Awards.
Yeah.
June 8th, 1980. Hosted by Mary Tyler Moore and Jason Robards. So our best musical nominees were Sugar Babies, Barnum, A Day in Hollywood, A Night in the Ukraine, and the winner, Evita.
Fascinating.
So that is a big sound from Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah.
My guess is that a show with 6 songs or 8 songs in it just can't compete.
I'm inclined to agree. Hal Prince takes Best Direction this year as well for Evita.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hal?
Oh.
Mandy Patinkin.
Mandy Patinkin's in play here too. Geez, the whole Princess Bride cast
Yes.
is showing up to play.
Oh my gosh, everyone's there.
This is the first one of the 3 we've discussed where I can't quite see a clear path based on historical context, at least, as to why this didn't do better. I think it maybe must have something to do with the actual content of the show not quite working properly. Mm-hmm. Because, something weird and offbeat at this time is not impossible to swallow.
Right.
That's kind of what's happening. It's got star power behind it.
Yeah.
Is it possible it was just really weird?
That's my gut.
It sounds weird.
I mean, the premise alone is really strange.
Yeah.
And not in a bad way. I just think that if you are going to see a Broadway musical in 1980, so you're probably not choosing the spy show.
And once again, Evita and Patti LuPone is just destroying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So just not high on anyone's list.
But still, 4 performances is brutal. For 4 performances, you're dead out the gate. You know what I mean? You've already made that decision long before you actually opened.
That's right.
And you were maybe hoping for some kind of Hail Mary, beautiful, miraculous reviews to happen or something. I don't know.
I feel like there's this weird sense that theater is like dying out, Yeah. It's like a dying art form and no one's going to see shows anymore. But then we researched these shows that had, 3 or 4 performances. And our shortest contemporary runs are like 20 performances.
Absolutely.
And that's still like a couple of weeks of work for people, And I think to just say that theater feels like it's dying, I don't know if that's even real. I don't even know if that's true.
Because none of these all die out. We're always able to point to competition.
Yeah.
These died out because these other shows were doing so well.
Right.
They were taking these enormous audiences.
Yes.
You know what
absolutely.
I mean? It's never, this show died out because people were not interested in seeing live performance.
Yeah.
All this to say, even with an actual global pandemic, we're starting to talk about bringing the live shows back.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a world where the result is, people just weren't interested in seeing live performance anymore. Mm-hmm. That wasn't the case in the 1980s. That wasn't the case in the mid-2000s.
Yep.
And that's not going to be the case coming up.
No.
I cannot wait to go to New York and Stratford and Shaw and Toronto and freaking London.
And Winnipeg.
Well,
you know?
Well, I'm going to be in Winnipeg one way or another, but I can't wait to go to these other sectors.
Yes.
Because everything trickles down to us at the smaller regional level.
Right.
I cannot wait to go and celebrate the shit out of shows.
Yes.
Personally, I don't care what I see. Show me nothing but like 4-hour Chekhov epics that are dreary examinations of the human condition.
Skip that.
I will cheer.
Yeah.
I'd also prefer to see something dumb and loud that just makes me feel good. In this day and age, but one way or another, bring it on. I just want to...
Oh, you want to see Bring It On?
Yes,
got
I do.
it. No,
yes, I do. Twice. I'll see it twice.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Well, what about this show, Censored Scenes? Should we revive or die?
I think we should revive. I think like you said, there's potential here.
I think so, too.
And I'm just curious. This is out of these three, this is the first one where I don't get it. Without seeing it and reading it, I can't quite see what went wrong.
Right.
And the curious part of me wants to know exactly what was going on there. So I want to revive so I can see it.
Yep, I feel the same.
Yeah.
I'm so intrigued.
Absolutely.
I want to choreograph the soft shoe.
The soft shoe freak.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, let's do it.
Gillian Willems.
Paul DeGurse.
We did it.
Oh my gosh, you did it. I feel like I just sat here and enjoyed your synopses.
Oh, and that's what I love about these episodes. It's a chance to really explore. And I'm really interested in, for our listeners out there, I'm really interested in this not being the end of the conversation about these musicals.
Yes, absolutely.
This is where we started. I'd love to know more.
Yeah. If you have some additional information, things that we didn't cover, little bits of trivia that you know, please connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, Gmail. Daphne will tell you.
Pod?
She knows everything.
Monkeys and Playbills pod? Yeah. You can rate, review, subscribe. Those are all ways you can help us. If you happen to be very lucky and have a little bit of extra cash lying around, you can donate to our Patreon.
Yay.
We will create content if you support our Patreon. Some possible content that we're thinking about includes talking about musicals that ran more than 100 performances on Broadway, doing live watches of shows, doing live recordings. You can actually watch us sit here and record these podcasts, see our beautiful faces. It's very fun.
My face is okay. My face
is mostly beard right now.
None of us are wearing pants.
None of us are wearing pants. Well, you won't be able to see that in the video though, so don't subscribe to that.
That's what kind of Patreon we are.
Well, I was going to say, I think that moves us into a different type of Patreon.
It's called OnlyFans.
Hey, I'm fine with that. It's work.
Any port in a storm at this point, right?
Yeah.
Hi everyone, this is producer Daphne speaking. Thank you all so much for listening to Monkeys and Playbills, the show where we take a look at Broadway musicals that had 100 performances or fewer before closing. To learn more about the show, you can follow us on Instagram at Monkeys and Playbills Pod, on Twitter at Monkey Playbills, or email us at monkeysandplaybillspod@gmail.com. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/monkeysandplaybills. Monkeys and Playbills is proud to be a Village Conservatory for Music Theater podcast. Original music for the show is provided by Paul DeGurse, and the show is produced and edited by Daphne Finlayson. Thank you all so much for listening, and join us next week where we take on Everyday Rapture.